Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are with Nikki from Occupational, and she will be doing the Wheel of Wellness, I believe, is our activity today, and leading us in this awesome little self-exploration. And thank you, Nikki, for joining us. And I look forward to connecting and continuing our relationship.
Yeah,
take it from here.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I'm going to begin sharing screen, everyone. But let me just make sure. Can you see my screen? We're good? Okay. So thank you so much for making time to be here. I really hope that you're able to do some self-reflection for this. My name is Nikki and I am an outreach and intervention specialist with the Orange County Asian and Pacific Islander Community Alliance, also known as Occupational. And I'm going to introduce what our program does in a little bit. But this is the 8 dimensions of wellness, or the Wheel of Wellness. We kind of flip-flop between them. And this is a presentation just to help you learn about what is wellness, right? What are the different components that make up wellness? And how can you work on targeting different components of your wellness so that you can become overall a much more well person? So this will be an interactive activity. Unfortunately, I cannot see you, and we won't have the opportunity to necessarily be sharing out answers, but I'm going to ask you to follow along. Please reflect with me as we go through the presentation, and hopefully that will give you a chance to really reflect again on how you can become a much more healthy and well person, and also develop some coping skills and self-care habits to upkeep that wellness. So first, like I said, I'm going to talk about what the program does. So the Well Necessity program is one of 3 different mental health programs at Occupational. And what we do in our program is prevention and early intervention work. So we are a nonprofit. We've been around since 1997. So it's been quite a few years, 24, 25 years, I believe. And our program is completely grant funded by the California Prop 63 Act, which is the Mental Health Services Act. And so what that means is all of our services are completely free. So if you live in North or South Orange County, which Newport-Mesa counts, you are able to receive that short-term counseling that we provide, short-term case management, which is basically working with you to navigate resources to address other aspects of your life that are affecting your wellness. So if you need grocery assistance, if you need help finding clothes, if you need help finding a job, those are all things that we do in case management. We also do workshops like what we're doing today and skill building. So I do work individually and in groups with different people in order to develop coping skills, develop healthy habits, develop professionalization, all of those different things that really help you become more well and more ready to take on, all the different aspects of your life. So here is our contact information. If you would like to learn more about the program or enroll yourself in our services, here's our toll-free line. And we also, I also put my email here so you can contact me directly if you have any questions. Our program is focused more on students who are 16 and over and older adults. So please feel free to reach out even if you are in high school. We do accept participants who are under 18. And if you're under 18, if you're under 16, then you can definitely enroll in some of our other mental health programs, and you can call the same number and we'll help you get set up there. But with that being said, we're going to go straight into the presentation. Now, I'm going to ask you to just take a minute to think about this question: what is wellness? And there are no wrong answers. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to unmute or use the chat. But just think about, what do you imagine when you hear the word wellness? So take another 20 seconds to think about it. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to reflect on this question. And I'm willing to bet you probably thought about things like, your emotional health, your mental health needs, um, things like yoga, meditation, journaling. A lot of times those are what we imagine when we think about wellness. You might have even thought about, those really fun self-care activities that are very much promoted in our media, right? So things like taking a really nice bath with flowers and candles and aromatherapy. And all of those things definitely are examples of how we take care of our wellness. But we also want to talk about how wellness is a lot more than that. So wellness, very simply defined, is being in good physical and mental health. So it's not just about your mental health. A lot of times when we think about wellness, we automatically associate it with mental health. But our physical bodies and our physical bodies and our brains are super, super connected, which means that our physical bodies and our mental health are super connected as well. And anything that happens to your physical body will influence your mental health, and your mental health will influence your physical body. So it's really a feedback system. Everything is really connected. So, if you're really tired one day, you might be feeling more anxious. You may feel those feelings of loneliness or depression that are a lot easier to combat when you've had a full night's sleep. And so that's just a simple example of how connected they can be. But I also want to emphasize that they are a lot more, there are a lot more examples that are a lot more serious, right? So if you have an illness that is chronic, that may be contributing to some of your stressors, that may be contributing to your coping skills, and you may need to adjust your coping skills so that you can, adjust for your illness. And so really what we're going to do today is take time to look at all those different dimensions so that you can see how to balance all the different aspects of your wellness. I also want to emphasize that wellness is not the absence of stress. A lot of times when we think of wellness, we think of being perfectly happy, right? That picture perfect, everything is fine, person who has no stress, no worries, everything's perfect about them. And that's not what wellness is. I really want to encourage you to think about wellness as a journey, to think about wellness as a growth process, because as you are working towards wellness, as you are doing things to learn new skills to manage your stress, to learn new ways to manage your anxiety, your depression, no matter what you have, even if it's not a diagnosed mental illness, all of that is your path towards wellness, and you're actively doing what you can to be a more well person. And so it's not a, you are well or you're not well kind of discussion. It's a spectrum of understanding how well you are and how much growth you can get to get closer towards being more well. And so no matter what, even if you're experiencing challenges, even if you have some traumas that you're working through, if you have some loneliness you might be working through, anything like that, all of that still counts as, barriers, but all of that can be worked through in order to, become more well. So you can be well while experiencing challenges is all that means to say. And so please don't beat yourself up if you are experiencing challenges, because you can still do these things, those little steps that make a really, really big difference in the long run. So now we're going to talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness. So like I said, this is more than just our emotional health. Oftentimes when we think about wellness, we think about how happy we are, right? Or how physically fit we are. But that's just little bits and pieces of it. The 8 dimensions of wellness, or the wellness wheel, ask us to look at all the different parts that make us, a well person. So I'm going to break these down individually as we move forward, but we've got occupational wellness, social wellness, financial wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, environmental wellness, emotional wellness, and intellectual wellness. And so as you can see, this is really all encompassing. It's not just about what's going on in our brains or even what's going on in our bodies. It really, really asks us to think about wellness as something that is part of our social environment. It is something that not only do we influence by making decisions, choosing how to respond, and choosing how we can help ourselves in any situation, but also about how things are affecting us. And so that's one really, really broad way to look at wellness. And like I said, we're going to break each of these sectors down so you can really reflect on what are you doing for each of these dimensions so that you can balance out all the different aspects of wellness and be a more well-rounded person. Along that note, I do also, just to expand on that idea, want to say that while occupational wellness might be its own category, all of these are super connected. So something you do in your occupational wellness or for your occupational wellness might also increase your social wellness. It might increase your financial wellness. Or if you're suffering in, say, for example, your spiritual wellness, that can really take a toll on your intellectual wellness or your emotional wellness. And so all of these things do affect each other. And that's why we're really, really going to look at this as a balancing act and understand how improving one area improves overall everything else along with it. So now we're going to get into breaking all of these down. But I want to encourage you to follow along as I do this. So what you're going to do is make your own wheel. So you should have a piece of paper. Take that paper and fold it in half once and fold it in half the other way again. So you should have 4 panels when you open it back up. And if you have a blank panel on front and back, you should have 8 total panels. And what you're going to do is, after each of my slides, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to reflect on, 1, what you're currently doing for that dimension, to be a well person, to take care of yourself in that dimension. And then 2, reflect on how you can improve in that dimension, if you need it. It's entirely likely that you have nothing to improve on. Maybe you're super physically fit and you don't need to work on that aspect of yourself. But there are categories that you do want to emphasize more on. And that's totally fine. Just write nothing in that list. But for every single one of the dimensions, you're going to use a different box so that you have something to look back on to understand where you need to work on your wellness a little bit more, and also be able to celebrate which parts of your wellness you're actively working on, because that is also worth celebrating, right? You are doing things to improve your wellness. And so I really, really want to encourage you to take some pride in all of the work that you're doing for that. We're going to skip this last part to share out, but I encourage you to talk to someone about this after this workshop. If you are going to be doing this activity, part of one of the dimensions we're going to talk about is social wellness. And I really want to ask you to try to incorporate other people into your wellness plan. And at the end of the activity, when we finish all of the dimensions of wellness, I'm going to ask you to also create a self-care plan. And so that's when I'm going to really encourage you to think about how can you incorporate other people into your journey towards being a more well person. So hopefully by now you've folded your paper up and you have your 8 panels so that you can reflect on each section. But I'm just going to move forward to start with intellectual wellness. So intellectual wellness is defined as expanding knowledge and skills through intellectually stimulating activities. So this means learning something just because you want to. It means doing something for fun, applying that knowledge to real life. So not just, going to class and learning a bunch of things that are really cool, really interesting, and only remembering it until you have to take a test. No, this is stuff that you are doing to stimulate your brain and your interests. And all of this is really important to making sure that you are targeting things that you find interesting and that give you what a lot of us call, right, like an aha moment. So for me, that includes things like learning Photoshop just for fun, or learning how to code just for fun. There's no reason that I need to use it. I don't use it in my everyday life, but it's really cool just to know those things, right? And to have that knowledge because I find it interesting and I want to know about it. So examples of what you can do for your intellectual wellness include things like attending a workshop, which you're doing right now. So congratulations, you're doing something to improve your intellectual wellness. Other things might include watching YouTube videos, TED Talks, podcasts, live streams, TikToks, radio shows. really listening to other people to do some learning, no matter what that platform is. And there are no platforms that are bad platforms for learning, right? There are definitely places where you can get more valid information than others. But if you're an audio learner, if you're more of a book reader, if you're more of a video person, and you like those video essays, all of those things are things that stimulate your intellectual wellness. So now I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think about this. And again, reflect on what is one thing you can do to improve your physical wellness? And then what is something that you can do, or what are some things that you are already doing to stimulate your intellectual wellness? And I'm going to very quickly mute and grab my charger so my computer doesn't die during this presentation. All right, and as we come down to the last 25 seconds of your reflection, maybe try to star the things that you're already doing for yourself and circle some things that you think that you can work on throughout the week in order to stimulate your intellectual wellness. And this is just to give yourself a visual reminder of how you can work on this category. All right. So now we're going to move on to the next dimension, which is your physical wellness. So this is one that people usually think, this is one that usually people think of just exercise. And that's definitely a part of physical wellness. However, physical wellness is a lot more than just getting some exercise. It's defined as caring for our well-being through physical activity, healthy foods, sleep, and personal care. So things like eating well, like getting a good night's sleep, like taking naps throughout the day when your brain feels really tired, those are examples of physical wellness. Because the more you take care of your body on a regular basis and all aspects of your body, right? Not just making sure that your muscles are there and your bones are taken care of so that you can have a well-running and fit physical body, but also one that internally feels good, right? Are you eating things that make you feel healthy? Are you feeling really tired because you're not eating well, or you're constantly eating oily things or fatty things, and that makes your heart feel really tight? Those are things that can negatively impact our physical wellness. I also want to highlight hygiene. So hygiene is a huge, huge part of our physical wellness. What are you doing for your hygiene right now that can help you feel good about the physical body you're in, right? Do you like your hygiene routine? Are you taking care of your hair, your skin? Are there aspects of your skin routine that you really want to change up or that you are really enjoying? So all of those things do contribute to our physical wellness. And so I'm going to give you, again, 2 minutes to reflect on it. What are some things that you are doing well in this category? And what are some things that maybe you need to work on, that you need to do in order to increase your physical wellness? All right, and again, as we are in our last 30 seconds for this reflection, star some things that you're doing well, and then circle some things that you know you want to work on. You can underline them, highlight them, do whatever you need to catch that attention. And in the next 10 seconds, we're going to move forward with the next dimension. All right. So now we're going to move forward to social wellness. So social wellness is defined as developing a sense of connection, belonging, and a well-developed support system. So it's not just about having people around you, but instead about having people around you that make you feel really happy, really positive, really supported, that you think you have a mutual respect with, and that you feel like you can freely communicate with. So it's not just, again, having people around. You can have a million friends. You can have parents who are always hovering around you. You might have family members in general who are constantly physically there. But how much do you feel like you can depend on them? How much do you feel like you have that mutual respect and that positive relationship? Also important is that it's long lasting, right? So this isn't someone who's in your life for a week. That's really important too. But in terms of when we're talking about long-term social wellness, we want to create support systems that you can depend on for a long period of time. And so think about that when you're thinking about your friend groups, your family support. How can you build better relationships or create new ones that will supplement that need for healthy and positive, nurturing social relationships? Examples of things that you can do include reaching out to friends, right? I know it's a little difficult because we are living through a pandemic, but as much as you can, try to stay connected to your friendships. That might mean playing games over Zoom together. It might mean having virtual dinner parties over FaceTime, which is one of my favorite things to do, right? Sometimes that looks like me and a friend both eat a salad and we pretend we're both at Panera together. It's not exactly perfect, but it gets that kind of feeling of being socially together back. Another thing that you can do is strengthen your family relationships. So if you are connected to your family and you have a positive relationship with them, and this is something that is healthy for you to do, I really encourage you to try to strengthen those bonds. Get to know them as friends as well as family members, right? So how much do you really know about your mom or your little sister or your cousin? And try to really grow a sort of connection or bond between them. Another thing you can do is join clubs, online groups, communities. This doesn't all have to be in person. And in this generation that we are in, a lot of us do have online support systems, whether that means joining a Facebook group for gardening or for just talking about what's going on in your city, because that makes you feel connected to the people around you. That also might mean being on, for those of you who maybe are younger and are really interested in, K-pop group or a particular TV show, having those online spaces where you get to connect with people about things that you're interested in is part of nurturing your social wellness. And then for some of us, really understanding the local community is important for our social wellness. So getting involved in local organizations, whether that means medical ones, or your local volunteering opportunities for kids, whatever that means, all of those are examples of how you can grow your social wellness. So I'm going to give you another 2 minutes to think about this. And again, circle and star what you need to give yourself that validation and also remind yourself of how you can improve and what steps you can realistically take as we are developing these things for our self-care plans. And as we enter our last 30 seconds for this one, I really encourage you to be specific about if you put that you're really good at reaching out to this particular friend or this family member. Maybe if you put on your improvement side that you want to start reaching out to more people or that you want to join things, try to list out who in particular or what kinds of organizations in particular you're going to look for. And that'll help us as we move into our self-care plan after we're done with understanding the wheel. All right, so next we're going to talk about environmental wellness. And as you know, we're all very close to the coast over here in Orange County. This is a huge one for us. So environmental wellness is defined as occupying pleasant, stimulating environments that support well-being. So it's not just about understanding and liking the area that you are living in, but it's also about really getting something and being stimulated by the environment that you are immersed in. And so that might mean that you're too comfortable in an area, right? Is your area that you are living in just so boring and routine to you at this point? And if that is the case, then what can you do to spice up the house you live in, the school that you go to? That might mean joining a new club. It might mean exploring around a different area. And so that's one way to think about our environment. But some things that you can do to take care of your environmental wellness include really, really taking care of your personal space. Do you like how your room looks? Is it messier than you like and that gives you some anxiety? In that case, maybe it's time to take a big clean, right? Clear out things that don't, as Marie Kondo often says, right? Don't give you joy. Try to organize things in ways that make you feel more comfortable in that space and that make you also look forward to being in your personal space. This might mean having an unwinding spot. So, for example, I really like going to Newport Beach when I have to think about things. And so, knowing what that environmental spot is, knowing what that area that makes you feel stimulated and happy is part of understanding your environmental wellness. Cleaning is a huge part of our environmental wellness. So, if you're noticing that you don't feel comfortable always walking around your areas, can you start neighborhood cleanups? Can you just, clean up your street a little bit so that you are happier with just that small piece of the environment that you are constantly seeing on a daily basis? That really does make a difference in how stimulated and pleasant an environment can be. And then if you are concerned about your carbon footprint, that is an example of environmental wellness. So how much you care about the environment and how much it affects the stresses that you have are things that do encourage and discourage the environment's ability to stimulate and be pleasant for you. And so again, we're going to go into 2 minutes to reflect on this. What are some things that you can do to work on these aspects of the environment? Or what are some things that you're already doing to take care of your environment in order to feel like you can thrive in those spaces, that you can get some kind of encouragement and pleasure from being in those areas? All right, and as we come to the last 5 seconds here, again, star and circle the things that you are doing well, that you really want to work on within this next week. And that'll give you some idea of how you can take care of the environment in this very moment. So you can start your growth process and continue your journey. Next, we're going to talk, excuse me, sorry. Next, we're going to talk about spiritual wellness. So unlike what this might sound like, spiritual wellness does not necessarily have to do with religion. All it means is attending to our sense of purpose and our meaning in life. So for some of us, that might include religion. Some of us do get a sense of purpose and understanding of what our mission might be on this life, and our values might be shaped by the religions that we do practice. For other people, it has nothing to do with your religious practices. It really does depend. And so spiritual wellness is one of the dimensions that I think is the most versatile and the most really dependent on you as a person. But inherently, it's really about understanding your personal values and your ethics, understanding what matters to you and who you want to become. That's really, really what this is about. Understanding those two things so that you can do the most that you can do to feel like, a very fulfilled person. Oftentimes, if you're doing things and you feel like you're not getting anything out of it, you feel not connected to the work that you're doing, you feel like there's no purpose in anything you're doing, that might be because those tasks are not stimulating your spiritual wellness. And that's okay. Not everything is going to stimulate our spiritual wellness. Not everything is going to, be part of your sense of purpose. And that's often because there's a lot of things that are outside of your control, right? If you are a student, you're going to have assignments and you're going to have things that you have to do because of that role. But what can you do to reframe that thinking, right? So maybe I have an assignment and that assignment sucks. I don't want to do it. But I'm thinking of that assignment as, okay, if I do this now, then I have the opportunity to work on this thing, learn this song that I've really been wanting to practice, because I think that music is something that helps me feel more connected to myself. And so if I do this assignment, then I have more time for that music. That's one way to reframe things that don't necessarily promote your spiritual wellness, so that you can have them really, really start to connect. And so other examples might include spending time alone, right? How much do you actually think about your thoughts, right? So we all think all the time, but how much do you allow yourself to really explore those thoughts, really explore your emotions and the understanding of the things that are going on in your life? How much do you allow yourself to reflect or process something that is going on? That's really, really important for us to feel connected to ourselves. Another thing that you can do to stimulate your spiritual wellness is practice mindfulness, or that's just a fancy way of saying, practice being in the moment and understanding all of the emotions, all of the thoughts, all of the physical sensations that you're feeling in a particular moment. Are you, in spaces or in social settings, but your mind is somewhere else? In that case, maybe those spaces are not promoting spiritual wellness for yourself. Or you have to change your habits so that you can fully immerse yourself more in the moment. Some people find connecting with nature helps their spiritual wellness. Other people find that connecting with their church or their temple or their gurdwara, whatever that means for you in terms of religion, is how you stimulate your spiritual wellness. So there's a lot of different ways to take this. But really, in these 2 moments, I want you to reflect, these 2 minutes, I want you to reflect on what are things that make you feel connected to you, and what are things that you're not doing that you want to start doing because you're neglecting those parts of yourself that really, really need some attention. So Got about 1 minute and 40 seconds left. All right, so we're actually going to just do 1 minute only, just for the sake of time. But hopefully this lets you really connect with those different parts. So we're now going to move on to, there we go, occupational wellness. So occupational wellness is obtaining satisfaction and enrichment from your work. And work is defined very, very broadly here. So for some of us, that means our role as a student. For other people, that means your job. For some of us, however, occupation might mean your social role. So your occupation as a mother, as a father, a parent, a sister, a brother, an older sibling, a younger sibling, a grandchild, right? All of those social positions are part of our occupational wellness. You know, if you are someone who is very heavily involved in a volunteering activity, that leadership position you might be having in that activity is an occupation. So as we think about these things, about occupational wellness, think about what's stressing you out. What roles are ones that you find a lot of personal enrichment from? And what are ones that you don't necessarily feel anything for? Are you taking breaks in those roles? Are you able to really think about things in your life and have time to not be always in that role? And then finally, how much do the occupations that you're in contribute to your goals? So all of us have goals about who we want to be and what we want to do. And I really want you to consider, what are some things in the occupations that you have that enrich those goals? And what are some things that you maybe need to look for in those occupations so that you can feel more personally fulfilled? So I'm going to give you about 1 minute to think on this. And we'll move forward with the next two dimensions of wellness after that. All right, so now we're going to move on to, oh, here, 1 second. Now we're going to move on to our financial wellness. So this is our satisfaction with our current and future financial situations. So this might include things like being organized and knowing your financial limits. Part of understanding our financial wellness is understanding what we can and can't afford. And it also means understanding how to obtain the things that maybe you cannot afford. So really understanding where to go to access aid, understanding how you can receive support if you aren't able to have food access, if you're not able to fully buy insurance, and what options there are for getting those things, like government aid, or relying on your community networks or local organizations to help assist you in that. So I think the hardest part of our financial wellness is being critical of our potentially unhealthy or unsustainable coping habits. And so the question that I really want to encourage you to ask yourself for this minute of reflection is, do your coping strategies involve spending money that you don't have, right? For some of us, like myself, shopping therapy is my favorite thing to do when I'm sad, but that actually harms my long-term financial wellness. So unfortunately, for the sake of time, I'm gonna just move forward to the last dimension, but really think about, are there budgets that you can do? Are there, opportunities that you need to look into in order to stimulate your wellness in this sense? And then finally, we're going to talk about emotional wellness. So emotional wellness is the one that we typically think of when we talk about wellness, which is why I saved it for last. But some things that you can do to, attend to your emotional wellness include accepting and learning from your mistakes, positive mindsets. So really trying to encourage yourself to think forward focused and to think about what you did well in certain situations. So not just being critical of yourself in a negative way, but also giving yourself praise and gratitude. You can also try to seek and accept support and help. That's a really difficult thing for a lot of us, but trying your best to seek out help is really important. And then finally, learning how to reach out and connect is really, really key to stimulating our emotional wellness in a long-term sense. And again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to have us reflect on that. But to end, I really just want to encourage you to take this and make a self-care plan. So this is a general structure. I encourage you to take a screenshot of it if you'd like, but just think about the goals of your wellness that you want to work on, and then try to break it down on what can you do daily, what can you do weekly, and what can you do monthly in order to attend to those different dimensions of wellness and become a more balanced and healthy person. But with that, thank you so much for letting me speak with you. I hope that you gained something from this, and I'll hand it back to Kristen.
And Nikki, thank you so much for being with us today and for this great presentation and activity. I turned off my camera. I don't know how to put it back on. But
no, you're on it for me.
Oh, I am? Then you can see my wellness wheel. I've done a lot of good work and self-reflection. And this was a really a great exercise. And we so appreciate your time and your relationship with Newport-Mesa. And I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Nikki. Bye-bye.
Bye.